The Houston Texans are sitting on a razor-sharp deadline while the rest of the league pretends everything is calm. Everyone is busy staring at highlight reels and mock draft boards, but the real pressure is hiding in plain sight. The contract clock is already ticking down for C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr., and one misstep turns a rising contender into a franchise stuck in second place forever. What nobody is talking about is how fast a championship window slams shut once the big money hits, and how zero room is left for mistakes after that. The roster already holds the pieces most teams dream about. You have a quarterback who plays with quiet control. You have outside weapons in Nico Collins and Tank Dell that force coordinators to change their entire game plan just to survive. But here's the twist. The Texans do not need a miracle. They just need one clean chain of choices. When the hits start piling up, every throw feels rushed and every drive feels short, which is exactly why Houston moved on from Bobby Slowick. The margin at this level is too thin for an offense that guesses on third down. Now the pressure sits on Nick Caley to turn the playbook into something steady, something C.J. Stroud can trust without thinking twice. Meanwhile, the other side of the ball is already doing the heavy lifting. With Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter lining up on opposite edges, this unit plays like a team that expects to win late, not a team that hopes to survive the clock. The front office knows the exact numbers waiting on the table, because Stroud is set to make $25.904 million in 2027, while Anderson clocks in at $21.512 million. That does not break the window. It forces Houston to stop building slowly and start playing for keeps. The shocking part is that Houston already constructed the exact side of the ball that drags teams through January football. This is not a unit that begs for lucky bounces or last-second heroics. They close space like it is personal, they hit with purpose, and they keep the entire field feeling smaller by the fourth quarter. If the defense is already this heavy, then the offense has nowhere left to hide when the pressure spikes. But building a pass rush is only half the story. Because a great front seven means nothing if the coaching staff cannot rotate fresh bodies to keep the motor running all season long. That is where the real fracture lives, and it starts long before the quarterback even takes the snap. The Houston Texans defense is not a nice story anymore. It is a weekly problem every quarterback has to solve. DeMeco Ryans built a unit that plays fast without playing reckless, hitting with purpose and closing space like it is personal. They do not beg for chaos or lucky bounces. They create pressure through discipline, through timing, through a system that makes the whole field feel smaller by the second quarter. That is the scary part for the rest of the league. What nobody is ready for is how this defense can take over a season even when the offense is not perfect. It is not just one star carrying the weight. It is depth, fresh legs, and a rotation that keeps pressure alive deep into the fourth quarter. Additions like Reed Blankenship, Logan Hall, and Dominique Robinson matter because they turn good drives into long drives and long drives into mistakes. That is when the crowd gets loud. That is when the sideline starts believing. That is when the opponent starts thinking about the next hit instead of the next throw. But here's the tension. This kind of defense does not ask for miracles, it asks for help. It gives you stops, it gives you field position, it gives you extra chances, and it keeps you in every game even when things get messy. So if Houston is still falling short when the season gets heavy, the problem is not effort, it is something else. And something on the other side of the ball that keeps turning clean chances into empty drives. And once we talk about why that happens, you will see the real reason this team has been stuck just short of the final step. The Houston Texans are not stuck because the talent is missing. They are stuck because the offense has had too many moments where it looks unsure of itself. When a team knows what it wants, you see it in the first 10 plays. The pace feels clean. The calls feel connected. The quarterback plays with quiet control. With C.J. Stroud, the ceiling is obvious, but the path to that ceiling depends on one thing most fans ignore: the details before the ball is even snapped. Here is what people miss. A quarterback does not only learn from touchdowns, he learns from patterns. When protections change late, when routes take too long to develop, when answers are not built into the play, the quarterback starts living in survival decisions. That is how timing disappears without anyone noticing. That is why Houston moved on from Bobby Slowick, because the margin is thin at this level and the offense needs to make life easier, not harder. Now the pressure is on Nick Caley to turn the offense into something steady, something that looks the same in September and January, something CJ Stroud can trust without thinking twice. And this is where the story gets sharp, because we have seen this movie before. A team can look close for years, then one offseason snaps the whole thing into place if the trenches and the plan finally match. The Texans do not need to become perfect, they need to become stable. And once that happens, the rest of the roster starts playing faster without forcing it. So let us talk about the blueprint, the example that proves how fast a contender can flip the switch when the offensive line gets fixed the right way. The Texans are not the first team to sit this close to the edge, and the clearest warning came from Seattle. One season things looked shaky, the next season the offense looked calm, clean, and in control. Sam Darnold did not turn into a different human overnight. The moment it flipped was when Seattle stopped treating the offensive line like a background issue and treated it like the main story. Then the results got loud, a Super Bowl win, and a score that still looks unreal when you say it out loud, 29-13. The catch is, this did not happen because of one miracle throw or one lucky bounce. It happened because the line stopped leaking. The quarterback stopped playing rushed. The run game stopped feeling like a fight for 1 yard. When you add a talent like Gray Zabel and you actually build the room around him, the entire offense starts breathing again, and the defense gets to play with freedom instead of pressure. That's what people forget. A great defense becomes deadly when it knows the offense will not hand the game away. Now bring it back to Houston, because this is the part that should make you uncomfortable if you are a fan. The Texans already have the hard parts, the stars, the belief, the edge on defense, the weapons outside. So if they want the same kind of jump, they cannot treat the line like a small patch job. They need a real plan, real depth, and one clear answer in the middle of the pocket, because the next step is not about hype anymore. It is about building an offense that stays steady when everything gets loud. The middle of the pocket still feels too fragile for Houston, and that is the quiet problem that can poison a whole season. When the pocket breaks from the inside, everything gets rushed at once. Throws speed up, runs get stuffed before they start, and the offense turns into a series of quick exits instead of long drives. This is why the center spot is not a small need. It is the one gap that can undo all the good work on the edges. There is already a base to build on, but it needs insurance and a real plan. Braden Smith can be a difference maker if he stays on the field, but the risk is obvious, and Houston cannot let one health swing decide the year. Wyatt Teller gives you real power, Ed Ingram gives you a stable body, and stability matters more than fans admit, because it lets a quarterback stay calm on third down. Now you finish it, you draft a real center like Logan Jones, you add another tackle who can grow behind Braden Smith, and you treat depth like a weapon, not like a backup plan. The twist is this: the best move might not be the flashiest name, it might be the chain of small choices that keeps the offense clean every week. Houston has enough picks to hunt solutions instead of hoping one falls into their lap, and that changes everything. Because once the line stops leaking, the draft stops being about dreams and starts being about value, hidden players, quiet picks that turn into starters. That is where the story goes next, to the targets rising behind closed doors, and the sleeper names that could end up being the real reason the Texans finally jump. The Texans' draft talk is getting loud, and most of it is noise. Every fan sees the same big names, the same highlight clips, the same safe picks. But inside the building, the real wins come from players nobody is arguing about yet. The kind of picks that feel boring on draft night, then show up in October and suddenly the whole team looks tougher. This is where Houston can steal the next season, not with a headline, but with smart value that stacks week after week. A sleeper is not some random late name, it is a player with a clear role and a real path to snaps. It might be a lineman like Josh Jeske who gives you strong depth and grows into more. Or a tackle like Demetrius Crownover who can develop behind veterans and still save your season if injuries hit. It might be a receiver like Elijah Sarrett or Omar Cooper Jr. who does not need to be a superstar on day one, he just needs to win the right routes at the right time. It might be a back like Adam Randall or Kalen Black who adds fresh legs without forcing the offense to change its whole identity. Or tight ends like Joe Royer, Miles Kitzelman, and Riley Nowakowski who do the dirty work that keeps drives alive. And here's the pressure point. The Texans have enough picks to take more than one swing, which means they can build depth without panic. That matters because the best teams do not survive on starters alone. They survive on the 6th and 7th man staying ready. Now flip the lens, because while the offense hunts quiet value, Houston still has one more mission: keep the defense fed with fresh bodies, so the pass rush never runs out of gas when the season turns cold. The Houston Texans are in a dangerous spot for the rest of the league because their defense is already good enough to scare people, and they still are not done feeding it. This is not about chasing one more headline name. This is about making sure Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter do not have to carry every heavy snap by themselves when the season gets tight. The smart teams know the truth: pass rush dies when the bodies get tired, and Houston looks like a team that understands that before everyone else does. That is why names like Caden McDonald and Zion Young matter, because one can bring force inside and the other brings edge juice that keeps the whole front violent for 4 quarters. The twist is that Houston is not only thinking about the line, they are also looking at defenders who let the whole unit stay flexible when games turn messy. Jalen Kilgore brings that hybrid style where he can move around and still play with power, while Keontae Scott gives you another defender who can wear more than one hat in the secondary. That kind of depth changes how a defense calls games. It gives DeMeco Ryans more freedom on 3rd down, more disguise before the snap, and more answers when an offense starts hunting weak spots. And this is where it gets serious, because when a contender starts drafting for freshness instead of desperation, it means the foundation is already in place. Houston is no longer trying to patch holes just to survive. Houston is trying to build a defense that still looks fast in January when everyone else is dragging. But if the defense is already this loaded, then the final question gets even bigger. What happens if the Texans decide to make one bold swing on top of all this? One move around the draft, the cap, or the trade market that changes the whole ceiling of the team. The Houston Texans are entering the part of team building where one smart move can change the whole future, and one soft move can waste it. The 5th-year options for CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. are already in place, which means the front office knows exactly where the clock is now. Stroud is set to make $25.904 million in 2027, and Anderson Jr. is set to make $21.512 million that same year. That does not kill the window, it sharpens it. It tells Houston this is the moment to stack the roster while the core is still in reach, before every decision starts costing more than it does now. Then comes the part that can shake a whole draft week: the trade market. Dexter Lawrence has requested a trade from the Giants, and that is the kind of name that makes every serious front office stop and think for a second. Not because Houston is desperate, they are not. Because when a team this close gets a chance to add a force like that, the question changes fast. It stops being, should we make a splash, and becomes, can the rest of the conference handle it if we do? Reports say the Giants are not actively shopping Lawrence, but they are open to offers, which is enough to keep this story alive. So this is the truth of the Texans right now. They are not chasing respect anymore. They are deciding how aggressive they want to be with a real opening in front of them. The draft can help, the line can help, depth can help. But the shocking part is the leap might come from one cold-blooded decision that tells the whole league Houston is done building slowly. And once a team reaches that point, the next season stops feeling like a test. It starts feeling like a threat. So drop it in the comments right now. Do you think the Texans should make a bold move for a player like Dexter Lawrence, or stay patient and build through the draft? Because the conversation is just getting started.